because we're going to get to the actual offer next. So after you run the comps, you determine that magic number that your clients are willing to either go up to or specifically offer and hold to, whatever it might be. And now you're actually writing the offer. This is where the details and us being wonderful agents and knowing our contract, okay? And if you're not an agent watching this, this is where finding a wonderful agent that knows the contract will make or break you and give you about 15 different edges that other people may not have thought about or addressed, okay? So in this market, obviously, there's only so much money that people are willing to spend or the home's gonna appraise for. So eventually it's gonna come down to more than money, right? All things being equal, 2 offers, $450,000, which one do you go with, right? And that's what we're gonna get into now. So, number one, the first page of the offer, it's everything, right? You want the first page of that offer to be as beautiful and represent everything, okay? So you have your purchase price, okay? But let's say you have an escalation clause, okay? That's on a different page. So there's certain things that I'm gonna preface, put in the email. Anything that they should know that's not on the first page, make sure you put it in bolds, asterisks, or something in that email you're sending, okay? Sometimes agents, when there's 30 offers, I hate to say it, there's no guarantee that you're gonna go through your offer in every single page. I hate to say it, but you can't guarantee anything. You can't guarantee anything in this market. That's what this class is about. Tackle all your bases, all right? Tackle all your bases. Confused analogies, that's perfect. So right on the first page, you have your purchase price. Right underneath that, you have your deposit. Okay. Now, as far as the seller is concerned, is a deposit kind of correlated to a buyer's motivation or ability to purchase, as Keith would point out too? You know, if they're able to put down more, does it not look better, right? So as far as your deposit, if we're great agents, which raise your hand if you think you're a great agent, I hope we all do. Is there any real risk in your earnest money if you follow the contract correctly? Is there any risk, really? I'd hope a bunch of realtors are shaking their head. No, we don't risk earnest money. We know the contract. As long as you know your timelines and how to do it, it's not in jeopardy, right? So that's the key. If you know your outs and your clients work with you, you follow the timelines, how many outs will they have to get their earnest money back? Right? You have your inspection period, you have your appraisal, you have your CC&Rs, potentially the final walkthrough. I mean, there's lots of things throughout to be able to protect your client and get their earnest money back, right? So as far as I'm concerned, that earnest deposit shows motivation and it's on the first page and it puts your client's best foot forward. So the more they're willing to put down, the better. If they have a $10,000 down payment, let's go and just throw that down. Boom. Okay, because it's risk-free. Do you get my point? We utilize anything that's risk-free, quote unquote, okay? You make sure you give your disclaimers about your clients. Like, let them know that, hey, you better do exactly what I say when we say it, and there's no going back, right? So obviously they need to know, but walk them through the contract, right? You talk about your 10-day inspection period. Hopefully you talk about the CC&Rs and how that's separate from the inspection period. You're gonna talk about the appraisal. You know, you're gonna talk about the condition of the home throughout, and your final walkthrough. So hopefully you're gonna go through all these things and be like, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, right? And it'll help them feel more comfortable. Does that make sense? Yeah, Keith.
Oh, Josh, you touched on a sore spot for me with agents.
Yeah?
That's not educating them on the stuff you just talked about. I have a client just called me yesterday. She has a contingent offer on selling a property back in Jersey, one of those co-ops, right? There's several other units on sale in the building, been on sale since January. I asked her why she's even writing a contract, quite frankly, because I'm pretty blunt with my clients like that. She called me yesterday because her agent told her, I guess she decided she probably wants to cancel the contract because she found there's even more for sale. Her agent told her to call me and tell me to issue a loan denial. I was like, excuse me? It's illegal for me to decline someone who's qualified, which was interesting. Yesterday morning before she called, we actually got the initial approval contingent upon her selling one of these co-ops. But here's what really bothered me. and I told her this before, she needs to read the contract. In the contingency addendum, it talks about, and she was worried about losing her earnest money, right? That's why he wanted me to deny the loan. He didn't have any idea what was in that contract. I think I hate to say this, but he wants to be a pilot and he's doing real estate part-time, I think. But I pulled up the contract, told her to pull it up, and I said, look, I'm not an agent. I can't give you advice on this, but I want to point you to the sections you need to read. And it was very clear. In fact, they actually came back with a counter and said, if it's not under contract by 6/7, which is in 4 days from now, she can cancel and get her earnest money back. She only has to wait 4 more days. Guys, Josh is absolutely correct. If you really want your clients to not be nervous Nellies about their earnest money, you have to educate them on all the outs that they have. And it's important though too, that they understand those timing requirements for curing and stuff, okay? When it has to happen. Appraisal doesn't come in, I think you got 3 days to notify, right? Notify the seller, the selling agent, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
You're gonna put me on the spot. It's either 3 or 5. Yeah, I think it's 3.
Anyway, whatever it is, 3 or 5, they need to understand those things. It's gonna make them much more comfortable putting larger deposits down.
Yeah. And that's where knowing your contract backwards and forwards, making sure you're organized, being the professional agent, it really boils down to that. Okay, so you got your earnest money. Next is down payment. All right. Now, nobody can dictate how much your client can put down other than them. But obviously, Keith, how does, and this is, a lot of people don't know the fact on this one. So fact, how does down payment impact or protect an appraisal or not?
In your question. So what Josh is alluding to is, if I have somebody doing 10% down and the appraisal comes in low, what do we loan off of? We loan off purchase price or appraised value, whichever is less. So that borrower then has to think about, what are my options? They either have to bring more money to a down payment, or maybe what they do is they go, maybe I'll do a 95% loan, right? In other words, if they can qualify, they're gonna have higher mortgage insurance and stuff, but we can adjust the loan amount, right, to cover some of that shortage. What if somebody's putting 30% down or 40% down, and he comes in 10% low, just using a nice round number, but they're putting 30% down. They might still be the 20% loan to value. What's the impact there? Nothing, zip, no impact. They're just at a higher, they're just at a higher loan to value based on the appraisal. It doesn't impact the loan. So it really depends on the down payment they're doing, how much lower that appraisal comes in, on what the impact is if they can't put more money down. And that's a great conversation to have. I like to have that with my borrowers up front about what those impacts are. Here's what I tell my clients when they ask about an appraisal. What if it comes in low? I go, you're going to talk to your agent. You guys are going to have 3 options. Go back and counter at the appraised value, counter, or they can counter back at an in-between number, or they can stick to their guns. And then you're going to have to decide which way you go. But what's interesting, then I'll go through the numbers with them on those different scenarios, to their loan or their cash to close.
So does a down payment literally impact an appraised value at all?
No.
There you go.
It has no bearing on the appraisal.
Exactly. Okay, so a lot of people think if they put down more, no, it's just that much more cushion they might have if it doesn't, and they're willing. That's the catch. So that's my kind of thought process on this one. Is it's actually kind of different than what a lot of people are going to say. I don't necessarily think putting down more than you need to is a huge advantage, because it's really going to boil back down to the appraisal. So they need to ideally put some down. And we'll get into the loans here in a second, because that's where, actually, let's go ahead and jump into it, because right now you have people with FHA and VA, which unfortunately,
I want to, hold on a second. Sorry, Josh.
No.
You just said you don't think it matters, put more down than what?
No, that's a caveat with an asterisk. I kind of switched thoughts because I was looking at my notes here. And
because what I did want to say is this, right? If there is a lot down, then the seller knows, especially the listing agent, that the appraisal does come in low, that it shouldn't impact their ability to close, obviously, right?
Yes.
A larger down payment obviously is a big advantage, especially if the value is going to be higher than the appraised value.
And this is kind of where I'm coming at with a weird angle. So bear with me on this because I started off wrong, which is why I'm coming back. My bad. No. Okay. So down payment, normally I would say more is more, and you should always put your best foot forward because the sellers are going to be more likely to accept your offer. Right now with this market, with appraisals, having to worry about appraisal contingencies and escalation clauses and stuff, I'm more thinking put down what you need to, but make sure you're very strategic with how you're going to place your down payment with just different things. Which is why I'm coming back to the down payments, because the loan, okay? And here's what I've heard a lot over the last 2 months, okay? Cash is getting their offer accepted, done and done, and they're only accepting cash offers, okay? And that's true on some certain circumstances. But then you have a conventional loan, which is very good. You can close very fast. You know what I mean? And it's pretty smooth process, not a lot of guidelines, blah, 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 right? We're just gonna go down the list. You have FHA, which as far as the seller is concerned, more risks. They might not appraise, these buyers might not be as strong. Then you have VA. Unfortunately, in this market with appraisals, people are scared to accept zero down for whatever reason, because they're afraid it won't appraise, there's less this. And in this case, I hate to say this, and I've actually heard this, okay? A VA loan has actually turned into almost a penalty when you're trying to place an offer today compared to a conventional loan or cash. Make sense? Because they're not putting down, right? So what is your answer to that in the context of facts to give the sellers, right? Like, let's say I have a very qualified FHA guy. He's gonna put 3.5% down. Why should they accept my FHA loan as opposed to this conventional with 20% down? Make sense? No?
Oh yeah. So your point, if you ain't got money, forget it, right? But part of that though, for example, though, Josh, let's say for a veteran, right?
Mm-hmm.
See if you have a veteran who has a disability, is not paying any of the guarantee fee. There's no mortgage insurance. The rate's typically slightly better than conventional. He may just choose 100% down because it's so cheap to borrow the money. But if you're going into a competitive environment, he does have money to put down. That's something I think should be communicated. I mean, it has to be talked with the borrower, the buyer. I have to have that conversation going, and so does the agent. Hey, look, if this doesn't appraise, do you have cash you're willing to put down on this loan? And
there you go. Yeah.
You need to communicate that to the listing agent and maybe give your VA loan a better opportunity than it might have otherwise.
Yeah.
People think the VA appraisals and stuff are more stringent. I don't really agree with that. I think my experience is they're coming in just like a regular appraiser would come in as far as values and stuff. I don't see that as a penalty. I really don't. Nor do I see that in FHA. I mean, it's the same appraisers. FHA, VA, we have to all go through the same portal, but I don't see that as a penalty.
So,
in that way, in the market, I don't know.
Yeah, so if you're representing a VA buyer and you're presenting a VA offer to a seller or to a seller's agent, I would stress that fact that, hey, he's zero down, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. His loan is strong. And conveying that, because I hate to say this, but in today's market, people equate a lot to down payment, right? The more down payment, the safer it's going to be. It's more likely it's going to appraise, all these other things. And that's not factual, right? Keith, you're saying more properties are appraising than not. And that, I assume, includes FHA and VAs with zero down.
You want to hear something even more amazing?
Yeah.
I'm doing a loan right now for a house across the street and one over from me. 20% down. I got an appraisal waiver. And it's selling for, it's 2,200 square feet. It was sold for, we actually got a good deal on it. It's only $535. Buyer knows the seller. But anyway, the point is, I actually have gotten some appraisal waivers, especially if they put more money down. And if the buyer's willing to not do the appraisal, because it's their option in that case, right? So that more down payment could actually preclude even doing an appraisal.
Okay, and let's say it's a VA and you put in a great offer. Could they not use their cash to now, instead of putting a down payment, it's more of a contingency in case it doesn't appraise, to be able to waive an appraisal up to a certain amount potentially?
Yes, absolutely. That was my point.
Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly. See, so being able to utilize your down payment strategically, okay, whatever cash on hand, use it to the best whatever you can, okay? So on appearances, now we know like cash, great. Conventional, your FHA and VA, convey that down payment has nothing to do with their qualifications or how difficult this transaction is going to be. It's going to appraise the same as every other loan because it's the same market. So VA does not penalize sellers, and that's been the biggest bane of my existence. You just feel, because that's a benefit, man. I mean, I wish VA's got almost, and I hate to say this, but like almost preferential because of that fact. You know what I mean? Like they get a bad rap. So just go out of your way to make your FHA and VA as fair as possible in the seller's eyes, because they may not know. They may have that stereotypical thought, well, I have to pay stuff for the VA. Not really, no. You know, it's not nothing extraordinary. Does that make sense? Beat a dead horse there a little bit. Okay. So let's go next to number 8, which is inspections.